This is one of my favorite ways to use the Fuse ladder to get a supported hip range of motion. I've got my client lying down on their side. I'm going to take a strap from above. So this strap is going to go on the thigh. Now, some of our clients prefer it here, but if you go too low, it's going to slide. So getting the strap right above the knee would be ideal. If it's pinching them, just bring the spring lower. From there, we've got the backboard, and I'm going to ask my client to slide their foot down the backboard and then bring it back up. And then open the spring and close. Now, with the spring supporting the leg, I can help support the body with my hands, differentiating the hip from the lower back or giving support in the upper body. I can also have my client do circles with the foot, figuring out we can make different shapes. If I want to be a pain, I can do a square, I can do a circle, I can do an oval. We can also add some push off. So if the client bends the knee, lifts the heel, and then brings it back down, all while having the support of the leg. Here is a great way to improve hip mobility with support from the springs. I've got the spring on an angle at my client's hip. From there, we can do abduction and adduction up and down. We can also do circumduction with the leg. We can also bend and extend the leg. And I'm asking the client to open and close that spring. And the beauty of this series is you could add a second spring if the client needs more proprioceptive feedback at the foot. From there, they can step into that spring and bend in. They can go back to their ab and adduction, lifting and lowering it. Just make sure the spring at the foot is not too heavy because we don't want it to fling their leg out of the joint. A great way to get bilateral hip movement is with the Pinocchio squat. So your client's going to be facing away from the ladder. We have two purple straps up along their hip and the backboard. Now, with the backboard, you want it to be right around their butt. Make sure it's not too high, or when they slide down, they'll lose the sensory feedback. So from here, the client's just going to slide down the backboard and up. I don't want their upper back pushing in. I want really their SI joints to be the feedback up and down. And what's beautiful is I can ask my clients to sit in those springs and come up. Sit in those springs and back up. If your client needs support, you can be in front of them, put hands on the shoulders, and we can do it together. So they're mirroring my movement also while having support. Here is how we approach lunges on the Fuse ladder. I am going to ask Mariska to bring one leg forward and one leg back. I'm going to use a proximal position on the back leg, sliding the strap all the way up to her thigh, and I'm going to use a distal position on her front foot. From there, I always like my clients to hold right at nipple height or below because I don't want the shoulders to be the reason why the range of motion is smaller. From here, I'm going to have the client bend down into the lunge and back up. Sitting into the back leg and trying not to change the length of the spring on the front leg. Now, most clients prefer it this way. However, it is fine to take a distal approach on both feet in a lunge, or you can take a proximal approach on both legs, depending on your client's injury or where they're at in their recovery. The benefit of doing supine hip circles on the Fuse ladder is the extra sensory feedback on the non-moving limb. So you can see I have this strap around Mariska's thigh. I'm going to take the other strap and put it under her foot, the moving leg. From here, Mariska can straighten her leg and lower and lift that leg. So the options we have here, we can lower and lift the leg. She can circle the leg. She can bend and extend the leg, both parallel and in external rotation. But what I want to focus on is I want my client focusing on maintaining the pressure between her leg and this strap. or looking at the strap and making that strap maintain the same distance, which is a lot harder than it looks. You can also level this up by taking this leg up into tabletop, both relaxed tabletop and a little bit more of an active tabletop. Same hip movements, but just a different line of pull and direction of this femur. A lot of my clients prefer this position because the femurs are starting out in the same position, but if the client needs more support, we can go bent leg, and we can even decrease the spring carefully so that the client can straighten this leg out on the floor and it slides up more proximal. So the options for supine legs, pretty much endless, giving the client feedback and support where they need it. Hip range of motion is important, but we cannot forget moving the pelvis around the femur. Here's one of my favorite setups in a seated position. I like the chair actually on an angle, so the chair, the left side of the chair is in between the client's legs. From there, I'm going to take a leg spring and bring it up above the client's leg here, both in external rotation. From there, I want the client keeping that strap exactly where it is and rotating their entire body, including this foot, towards and away from that strap. Sometimes I'll ask the client to bring their hand on their hip and bring their hand towards that strap and away. This exercise is also a beautiful assessment to see if the foot can work with the hip or if the foot can't. We'll sometimes see clients go like that or they'll overturn their foot. So that gives us a lot of great feedback in addition to get the pelvis around the leg. To increase the level of challenge of the pelvis around the leg exercise we did seated, we're going to bring it up to standing. So the client's going to get in a sumo squat position, same line of pull on the leg. We recommend you use a chair, a dowel, or your shoulders and have the client rotate towards the ladder and then back away. The goal is not moving the leg that has the strap around it. We can also ask the client to really pivot on that back foot and come forward. We can also remove the dowel, come down to a knee, and have the client keep their hand on your shoulder so that they can rotate forward and back. A more advanced version, not for every client, but a good thing for clients to try. Some more options for your hip hinge, getting your pelvis to move more around your femurs. We've got 2 of the purple springs around the client's hips. Also, the leg that's going to go back. So let's bring right leg back, Mariska. And I'm also going to have the right arm higher up on the ladder so it's bent. From there, I'll have the client pitch towards the ladder a little bit and let this back leg come up. From there, they're going to straighten the right arm and rotate forward and back, helping the pelvis move around this leg. Since your hands are free, you can come to this non-moving femur and pelvis to give them more sensory feedback, or you can get this leg down on the ground, bend that knee a little bit for me, Mariska, and use the pivot of the leg. But we don't want the foot to cause a distraction from the goal of getting the pelvis to move around the leg.